Let me talk a little bit about also the admission requirements that you would have to come to Wright State, but also where we are. So Wright State is in Ohio. We are smack in the middle of the Midwest. What is great about Ohio is that it's definitely going to represent a lot of companies in this area. So we do have 26 companies that are from the Forbes Fortune 500. So you definitely will get a lot of internship opportunities, but also a lot of faculty that have worked in very prestigious companies like Intel or Honda, Lexus. I'm trying to think of Google. That's just in the engineering side. I know that there is some people in that worked for Procter & Gamble's marketing department. Abbott, Pfizer, there's so many different things that are happening on campus because of where we are located. It is also very much a center location for half of the United States. So many companies prefer to start there so that they can distribute everything around. We're also considered to be in Ohio in the Midwest to essentially cover like 61% of the population in the United States. We do have a lot of products that are started here so that because we represent so much of the United States in terms of political views, in terms of age, in terms of different things. Now, Dayton is where the airplane was born. So we are very much engineering heavy in the area, but there are different companies. So I'm going to go and try to give a European company, if you guys have a sunglasses, check on the side of your sunglasses and see if it says Luxottica. Luxottica is an Italian company. It makes all the lenses for your name brand Vogue, Gucci, and all these name brand sunglasses. So they used to have, at least for a very long time, their headquarters here in Mason, Ohio, which is 20 minutes from where I am right now. So it's definitely something that people have been coming to. So let's look at admission requirements. For a undergraduate, so the American Bachelors, you would need to have a GPA that is at least 2.5 or higher. Now, with the, you do not need to get a company to do an evaluation for you, but if you're going to get a company, you would want to do WES evaluation, that is WES evaluations, or you can submit them and we do them in-house. Okay, I recommend for you to submit your transcripts anyway because it will give you opportunity to, we would check on those to be able to get you scholarships. Okay, now on the English proficiency side, we would need 61 on your TOEFL, and that would be the same thing for the TOEFL at home, 51 on the PTE. The IELTS, it would be a 5.5 with no subscores of a 5.0. So a good way of saying it, if you have a 6, you should be good. 5.5, sometimes you will have something below 5, but that is not your last resort. Again, that would be the same for the IELTS indicator, which is the at-home version of IELTS. We also have a in language schools on campus, and it's called LEAP. So you can go through our language school, and you can do the waiver track, which would give you to a level 4 of our LEAP, and then you can start taking courses while you're taking LEAP. Okay. Graduate admission requirements, it's a minimum of 3.0. Your pre-food English it needs TOEFL 79 or higher. IELTS is a 6.0 and higher. PT is a 57. Now, the GRE have been waived, and so has been the GMAT, so it's not required. The letter of reference is the recommendation letter, as I was telling you earlier, is not always required, but it's always great to have it. And it's also the statement of a purpose, as I was talking about earlier. The application deadline is always movable. So for example, for now, if you're looking at applying for the spring semester, this says that it's September 30th, which is past. However, if you do apply, we do accept your application. This is considered your recommended deadline so that you can get things done pretty quickly. But if you're thinking for fall, you're plenty of time. May 15th is your deadline. I would start your application now, complete your form as you go, and upload your document as you go. This may take a long time to get it done, so might as well just do it a little bit at a time. Now, this is my contact information. We do also have a Facebook page where we interview students, and we interview also professors in 2 different areas. So you can always contact us. We can, if you're interested in a certain program, we could even reach out to the program and see if they would be willing to do something with us. They're always live interviews, so if they like the page, and if you do see a live interview, just go and see it. They usually are half an hour, so then afterwards they can be recorded. But if you do have specific questions, just leave comments and we will answer them. I am done today, so if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know.
Thank you, Giancarlo. I appreciate it. So we look like we already have some questions in the chat box. So let's go ahead and open those. So you guys can use either the question and answer feature, you can write in the chat box, or if you want to ask your question live, just raise your hand. I see we have some students who already raised their hand as well. And I'll enable your microphone and you can ask the question live as well. First question, pretty simple one. Can they apply through Common App?
Yes, and I'm actually kind of jealous because I wish I had Common App when I was applying for college. So yes, you can definitely apply through Common App at Wright State University. Especially on the undergraduate level, you can, it's very easy. If you're having issues with the graduate side, just let me know, but on the undergrad, it's not a big deal.
And how important are the transcripts, someone wants to know? I'm assuming the question is related to, in a holistic admissions application, how much does Wright State University take into account grades? I am assuming the question is, if I'm not getting it right, write in the chat box.
No. So it really depends on your college. We had a little bit of a conversation with Amelia about community colleges. So the biggest thing is that if the college that you're applying for has an open enrollment, then your transcript may not be that big of a deal. They don't have a minimum GPA or anything like that. But any university that you're going to apply for, they will need to see that transcripts because they need to see how well you did in high school and if you have that base for it. Or if you're trying to go into a graduate level, some degrees might be more competitive than others. So they want to make sure that they are giving the spot for that graduate or that PhD program to the best candidate. So it can be important, it just depends. I always would look at the requirements, like I was telling in the presentation, go onto your international page. So wright.edu/international. There's always been admission requirements for graduate, admission requirements for undergraduate, and see what meets your profile.
Another thing for undergraduate admissions, at least, if you use College Board Big Future, there's a website. There's usually profiles for almost every university in the US on that website, College Board Big Future. And under the applying section of that university's profile, you can see, you know, it might not always be the most up-to-date information, but it kind of gives you an idea of what they prioritize in the admissions process. Giancarlo, would you recommend a student reaching out to an admissions representative asking that kind of question?
Always. It's our job. But it's definitely what we would prefer to have rather than having a student. Personally, I am a person that if I get a student that is asking me about a program that I don't have or it doesn't meet a requirement that I have, I would direct you to another college that I'm aware of that can help and then maybe put you in contact with somebody. So I like to think that all my colleagues do similar things. So asking the question is always very beneficial to you and to the college.
Yeah. So we always say reach out where you can. It's important to do some research first, right? So make sure you're looking over the website and being an informed asker, if you will, to make sure you're not asking something that's clearly on the website. But for some of those more specific questions, or if you just need a little bit of guidance specific to a university, like Giancarlo said, that's what they're there for, to support you in the process. In the chat box, I see we have some questions about graduate programming. So Michelle is asking, for a graduate program, specifically PhD, how many universities would you recommend applying to?
Well, now in COVID, you're going to get the opportunity to have many application fee waivers, which, by the way, we will be offering to all students that are that are attending this event. I just need you guys to start an application and contact me directly on that email that I provided earlier. I'll put it in the chat box. So, it depends. I honestly, personally, I always say, start with looking at 20, you will downgrade it to 10, and then you apply to 5. My personal opinion is that you should go to the school that is giving you what you want. And what you want, I can't tell you. It could be you need a fellowship. It could be that you would rather have scholarships. It could be that you just want to be close to a company that you really want to work with. It could be that you want to go with a prestigious professor or do a specific research base. I can't tell you what you want, but I can tell you that it makes sense to apply as many as you can so that you can get what you want. It literally, if Michelle, if I can make the comparison, is kind of like buying shoes. You go to the store and you look at 3,000 shoes or whatever it is, whatever fits for your wedding or for your job interview, whatever it is, and then you make your decision. It's simplifying, but it does work.
Yeah, it's true. It's a good way to look at it. And I would just answer for undergraduate too, in case anyone in the audience is curious. Part of that's going to depend on how many countries you're looking at. So if you're looking at maybe some other European countries and the US, obviously do what's going to be best for you. Like Giancarlo said, have as many applications as you can manage. We usually recommend anywhere between 5 and 7 or 5 and 10 if the US is the only other place you're looking at for undergraduate studies besides maybe Spain or your home country. But it really is a question of, what you feel like you have time for. As mentioned, the Common App is great because it kind of helps simplify the process for you. But you always want to be looking at what your priorities are. We have a couple questions about TOEFL. Is it always required for applying to the US in general? And then more specifically, for graduate students, we have a student who is technically a Spanish citizen, but attended university in the UK. Do they still have to take the TOEFL, or is there something similar? I will say before Giancarlo answers, maybe for Wright State specifically, it really just depends on the university that you're applying to. For undergraduate studies, some universities will accept if you go, for example, to or participate in some sort of Bachillerato Internacional, where all of your classes are in English, or almost all of your classes are in English for a certain number of years. That might be enough. Or if you can prove that you have native English abilities in another way that the university might accept. But it really is a case-by-case basis, similar for graduate studies as well. Giancarlo, do you have a specific response to that?
So I wish that there would be somebody that just would come with a magic wand and just give us all the same English proficiency, and everybody had to get to the same level. But what Emilia was saying, it is very subjective to the college. However, I want to highlight the fact that IELTS and TOEFL are the ones that are mostly going to be accepted. But like say for undergraduate studies at Wright State, we accept Duolingo English test. It's a provisional measure that we have right now for students that, because of the pandemic, it's very hard for you guys to get a IELTS appointment in person. But we do also accept the IELTS indicator, the TOEFL at home, which are the at-home versions of the IELTS and the TOEFL. However, like Emilia said, Wright State, like many other colleges, will accept a letter from your university stating that you have got all your education in English, therefore you're proficient. And we would accept that and waive that requirement. If you have been, for example, in England, I think one of the questions was if you have studied in England, we would count the fact that you have studied in England as your English proficiency. I hope that all colleges would do that, but I can't say that. If you have finished exams in Italy, in England, how can I not say that you're not speaking English? So yes, we definitely would do that. And personally, I am also a person that if you're close to it, let's say if you have a 5.5 but sub-zeros and 5, but you have done something more to say, oh, I worked in England for so many amount of years, I would reach out personally to the department and see if there is any way to at least provisionally accept you so that when you come over here, maybe we can verify your English. It's 1 in an off chance. It doesn't happen all the time, and it's not always successful, but Wright State is very committed to helping students, so we definitely do that.
That's good to hear. Yeah, so it sounds like Wright State's pretty flexible with that. It's always important, just check with the university specifically. We have had cases of students in the past who were dual citizens or an American citizen living in Spain, for example, but they were still required to take an English test, even though, say, the language spoken at home is English, but all of their education has been in Spanish. So it really just, depends on the university.
Yeah, a lot of times it's if you graduated from high school, that's where it comes in. So if you would have came and you were a Spanish citizen, but you have completed high school here in the United States, then when you would apply, they wouldn't require you to give English proficiency, or England, for example, me speaking. Yeah.
So we have a question about standardized tests. For Wright State, standardized tests are not required. Can a person still be considered for financial aid or scholarship even without sending test results? Before I'm going to let John Carlo jump in and talk about it, I just wanted to say, piggybacking off of the English results, some universities will accept any sort of leaving exam. So like EBAU for Spain or Selectividad, some universities might accept that instead of an SAT. And so it's really important to look and see, because a lot of these standardized exams or English tests are an additional cost, right, to apply and also to send your scores. So if it is possible to provide other documentation, check with the university, make sure, but look for that where you can.
So SAT, we're looking at ACT, we're talking about undergraduate students. So Wright State uses those, your English score as also as your English proficiency as well. So we can use that to waive your English requirement, like your TOEFL and stuff like that. So if you do have an SAT, it's good to upload anyway, even if it's not mentioned as required. So in that case, you would contact the coordinator and ask, I would like to upload these documents up. Can you please help me? So then they would make it available to you on the website, and you can just upload it. It's always good to upload all the information that you have, kind of like what I was saying earlier. You're creating a curriculum vitae when you're uploading all your documents, is essentially creating a story for you to saying that you are the best candidate possible that has come to their department. I mean, that's how you're literally doing your application. You're just not filling out a form like we do in Europe and that's it. This is essentially you're creating a case for yourself. So yes, sometimes the SAT can also give you scholarship opportunities as well. From external scholarships, many times they do look at ACT and SAT scores. So always have those available. You can always have them sent to us. It also can give you, to avoid some classwork, because if you have on your SAT a high level of math, we're not going to let you do 1 + 1 = 2. We're going to definitely bring you into the level of math that you're actually going to succeed in and be challenged.
So speaking of scholarships as well, John Carlo mentioned the You Are Welcome Here scholarship. Every university is going to offer kind of a different array of types of scholarships and requirements for them. So it's important when you're looking at, when you're researching universities, if you're still in that stage of researching, not only looking at, what academic programs they offer, but what kind of financial aid they can offer and what kind of scholarships you individually are actually eligible for. So whether it's looking to see if it's for an international student, like John Carlo mentioned, or if there are some sort of additional documents you have to provide, like an SAT or an essay, or sometimes even a recommendation letter, making sure you have all of those things lined up as early as possible so you know how to prepare. Another thing I would say too is some deadlines are earlier sometimes. I don't know if any of the scholarships at Wright, I think have earlier deadlines than maybe the admissions deadline, but some of the more competitive ones, he mentioned the You Are Welcome Here scholarship. There's only 2 of them that they give out, right? So that's a super competitive scholarship. So keeping an eye out on not only admissions deadlines, but scholarship deadlines as well is going to be important.
So just to add to the You Are Welcome Here, there is also a website called You Are Welcome Here. It's actually a movement here in the United States that you can see partnering schools that will have similar scholarships. So it doesn't have to be just Wright State, but it is across the United States.
Yeah, it's a really cool scholarship opportunity specific for international students that, yeah, as John Keller mentioned, many universities have. So that's a cool place to go directly to that website, and then you can just kind of see who offers that kind of scholarship as well as a starting point. Does Wright State offer aerospace engineering?
Yes, we actually have. It's called Aerospace. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. It's Aerospace and Material Engineering. I provided the website, the link to our Facebook page. I would highly recommend to go there because we did recently a interview with the program director for that degree. We have it at the graduate level, and that's usually mostly how we do it, but you can also have it as a minor on the undergraduate level. But at the graduate level, you get to do some really cool things, and there's really cool labs. I don't know if you guys know the Wright brothers. The Wright brothers that's where our name of our school comes from. We're the first one to create the airplane and do a successful flight. So we definitely are engineering heavy in Dayton region as a whole. But our college works very close with what it's called the Wright-Patt Air Force Base. It's one of the biggest, if not, I think it's one of the biggest Air Force base in the country. So we work really close with them in their labs. And they provide us a lot of opportunities for our students to research specific things. The aerospace engineering program that we have is the aerospace and materials. So it also explains to you what dimension or what code does a material break, why would we use it for this and not for that. So it is wicked cool, they say here in the United States. I would definitely go and look at that interview. It made me geek out a little bit, and I can't do math. So,
and you said that was on your Facebook page. They can find it on Facebook.
Yes, it's on, I believe it's /international WSU. But it's on the last slide that I have over there. I will go ahead and put that in the chat with my email as well, so I can give you also direct links.
Great. Yeah, that'd be great if you could post that. Another thing John Carlo mentioned during the presentation, and it's making me think of it now as well, is the point that he was making about where the university is located, Dayton being close to a lot of important, business organizations, looking not only at what majors they offer, but what kind of opportunities for internship or where it's specifically located, what kind of companies or industries do you want to get involved in while you're in the U.S. or potentially work at or intern at, is another way that can kind of help you decide where to either focus your university search or how to limit the numbers. Maybe you have a list of 25 and you're trying to figure out how to cut some off. We have a question about which state should we opt for, what factors should we take into account, maybe the living cost or something else. So yeah, definitely if you have some financial constraints, which everyone does, right, trying to figure out your budget for studying in the US, cost of living is going to be a huge factor. A lot of universities, and John Carlo was really helpful in kind of walking through really understanding what the total cost of attendance is, not only what you pay directly to the university, like admissions and fees, but also, transportation, housing, food, that kind of thing. A lot of universities will break that down on their webpage to give you an idea of kind of my day-to-day cost, or how much is it to be, to live here per month in this city. So we tend to say, country or cities and states within the middle of the U.S. Tend to be a little bit cheaper than maybe cities or states on the coasts or major, metropolitan centers or capitals of states. Well, are there any other factors you would add, Giancarlo, to help an international student
So
focus?
there's something that is actually a brand new idea that is coming out. Well, not brand new. I think we are late on doing this, but we just recently started doing this. Is the many colleges are coming together from one region, and they're actually recruiting or doing events together. We have started during the virtual world. So, like for example, we are doing live Facebook events talking about our region, Ohio, and for example, tomorrow we are going to have one that is talking about why Ohio is your affordable area of study. If it's okay with you, I'm going to put the Facebook link in here. But this is something that is very common now that is happening, that California has done it, Texas, Houston, and Texas, I'm sorry, Arizona have done it. So it's a good way to give you an understanding. Now, I personally am partisan towards the Midwest in general. Maybe it's not your fancy New York City or LA and Santa Monica, and we maybe don't have the beach that you would have in Barcelona. But I feel like in terms of opportunities, the Midwest provides so many that it definitely should be something that you would look into. Now, depending on what degree you're looking into, I would say, if you're, for example, engineering, look at Ohio. We have a very big history of it. If you're looking at, I don't know, marine biology, obviously you want to look at the Gulf Coast, like like Florida and all these areas on the sea, because they do specialize a lot into that. But honestly, it's about your feeling. How they say here in the United States, when you're getting out of high school, is like I was telling you, like you shopping for schools. Go to the school, look at things. Each school is going to have a virtual tour. Do that. It doesn't bother you. It's like 15 minutes of your life that you can invest into it and see what feels good for you. I also do recommend requesting the school to maybe talk to students that are from your region, or maybe speak your language, that maybe in Wright State, we don't have that many Spanish students. We had a student from Madrid, so that was good. But we definitely have a large Latino population on campus. We could give you in contact with the Latino organization, and you can talk to somebody and see what they can give you in terms of information. That's my personal. When I came to the United States, I was the only Italian in this area of my age. Okay, you guys do not have that problem. Okay, I can promise you that.
Yeah, so Giancarlo makes a good point of when you're trying to narrow down your list too, of reaching out to the university and seeing what kind of current students or even alumni they can connect you with, maybe from your home country or an international student in general. I'm conscious of time because we don't have too much time left and we have a lot of questions. There's a couple about graduate funding and graduate studies, so maybe we'll just group them together. So there's questions about do you need to be accepted to a university before applying to funding? So sometimes that might differ. Giancarlo might be able to talk about that a little more. If you're accepted into a university but they don't give you the funding, do you need to pay that university or can you just cancel it? How important is the GRE for master's applications?
Okay, so the GRE is very important before pandemic. I believe that now there is a pretty big movement in the United States where schools are trying to let go of the standardized GRE and GMAT and things like that, because it just does not reflect to success into the college. Now, that aside, it still will possibly be required for some colleges. It's very subjective. In terms of requesting funding for assistantship or fellowship or anything like that, it is okay to ask the school, the department about fellowship. Personally, I always say ask for it once you're being admitted, but I do also understand I don't want to spend the application fee waiver on pay 40, 50, sometimes 60 bucks for something, and then I know that I'm not going to get it. So it's always very good to go and ask the department, as is it possible for me to be able to get it for this type of research because I've done this and this and this and this? The department usually will respond. Sometimes, depending on when you're asking that email, might take a little bit of time, so it might be very frustrating. I understand that. But it's also okay to ask the question again after a couple of weeks that you've already asked it, okay? But just be understanding that faculty, especially the faculty that does research, also teaches classes, and many times they also do admission work, so there's a lot of moving pieces. So just be patient with them.
And then
was there something else that I missed?
The last question was about if you're accepted into a university but they don't give you the funding you need to pay, can you just cancel it? How does that work?
Yeah, you can withdraw.
Yeah, so basically when you are, if you apply to many universities and you're accepted before you've confirmed, and so there's two cases. You could withdraw if you've confirmed that you're going to attend there, or if you haven't said yes to that university, then you're not obliged to, obligated to pay anything.
It's using the analogy of buying your shoes. You're going to go to the shoe store. You're going to try 4 or 5 shoes. You're going to put them over there on the side. You're going to look at them in front of the mirror. The one that you look the best, you're going to take. The other one, you're going to withdraw back to the salesperson. So that's how it works. And it's, it's not something that everybody knows about that. Everybody knows that that's how it works. So you're not doing anything. You're not committing your life to a college just by doing an application.
Yeah, and the universities know that you're going to be comparing financial aid offers as well, because every university will give you a different amount of money. So it's important that you have the time to compare those offers and figure out what's going to be the best choice for you.
Absolutely.
Let's see, we have questions about the Cambridge exam, and so usually, I don't know for Wright State, but usually in most US universities, they're going to want either the TOEFL, the IELTS, or Duolingo, as John Carlos said. Anything that's more UK based is typically not accepted as a way to certify your English level.
We do actually.
You do? Okay.
So what we do is something very recent at the undergraduate level is that we will review degree English proficiency that does have a B2 level. Okay. So if you do have it, I'm not saying that we would accept the Cambridge. We're familiar with the Cambridge. We would just have to submit it to our TESOL faculty, and they will give us a recommendation. I just would not. Let me put it this way: if the United States is what your dream is, I wouldn't invest the money in the Cambridge. I would invest it into maybe the IELTS or TOEFL. Even the IELTS online and the TOEFL online is better than the Cambridge, just because it's not because the Cambridge doesn't give you quality. Don't get me wrong. I'm very familiar. Again, I'm from Italy. I know what you're talking about. But a lot of colleges, both in England and in the States, will recognize the TOEFL and the IELTS equally. In the Cambridge, it doesn't just go back and forth.
And then as far as sending the scores, they had a specific question about, can they send their scores, I'm assuming after the deadline or after they send their other documents? Is there usually some sort of window?
Yes, most colleges in the United States are very flexible with their deadlines. The idea that I usually give is that you would want to have all your documents submitted by, let's say, like 2 months before the program start date, which is your first day of classes. That gives enough time for you to receive your documents, and also to be able to get a visa, to be able to go to the embassy. So that's usually what I recommend in general. But yes, you can you can request IELTS to send them directly to us, which is good. But you also want to upload a photocopy or a digital copy of your transcripts to us, so that we can go and be like, oh, okay, so he meets the requirements. We'll get the official documents when he comes on campus. Like right about now, what we do is we accept you provisionally, and when you come to the United States, you will start classes and all that. And by mid of the first semester, like right now, people that came into fall 20 will have to start bringing us documents. by mid of the first semester, we will contact you and say, hey, we need that high school transcript. Hey, we need that GRE or whatever it is.
And so John Carlo makes a good point too of just always checking the university's specific policies and procedures, because every university might function maybe on a slightly different process or have different deadlines or different windows for when you can submit documents. So always double check that.
Oh, and let me give you one advice. Don't do what I did. Leave your country with all your official documents. Okay, I had to go back to my university in Rome and get my documents when I had to transfer. That was not a cheap trip.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind.
We're leaving, yeah.
Make sure that you bring them all, and they all are original. Don't make copies, all the originals. If you feel uncomfortable with it, I understand. I did the same too. Like, I had my high school diploma. It's so beautiful in Italy. In Europe, they just make it so beautiful. It looks like an artwork. I'm like, I'm not taking this. It's going to stay here. And then I had to go back to get it. So
yeah, so make sure you know what you need and when you need it by. Speaking of diplomas, Edina wants to know, is the high school diploma necessary for applying to graduate level, or is the bachelor diploma enough?
If you got a bachelor's, you've had a high school. So
yeah. So typically, you're really only talking about what you've done in high school if you're applying to undergraduate studies in the US. Graduate, they really only want to know what you've done from undergrad and on. So whether it's work experience or academic experience.
Yeah. In a combination of both, and sometimes. So you may, in certain degrees, may be okay to accept you if, let's say, you have a lowish GPA, but you've done 10 years in aerospace engineering, then they might be willing to look at it and say, well, he would be a good candidate because he's done applicable data. And for example, our engineering department, they pride themselves as being hands-on. So what the university really does too is try to give you as many tools and as much knowledge so that when you're going into your internship or your job, you don't have to be trained. So we spend more time in the labs than we do on the books. That's a very generic way of saying it, but it does give you a better understanding. And it's, again, on that Facebook page, we interviewed many engineering faculty, and it's something that it echoes through all programs.
And that's something John Carlo is speaking a lot to the culture of the university or of specific departments too at Wright State. So that's something else that you want to be looking for either in the language that the university is using to talk about specific programs or even program requirements to see what's going to be expected of you and what the university prioritizes in their education, the type of formation that they want to give you or expect that maybe you've already had or experienced if you're applying for some sort of graduate program. We have a very specific question about, this might be something maybe that's better answered in a follow-up email, but does SAT math score cover up my mathematics score in general for the engineering program if I haven't taken the math exam in my 12th grade year, I assume?
It could. We just would have to make one of those emails that I would send to the department and ask him if this student with this level could compensate this math score. We would definitely have to look at that. If whomever can send me an email, I would love to talk to them a little bit more about it. If I can't talk to them, I definitely will give them to one of my employees to go back and forth. Probably our undergraduate coordinator will be best to answer those questions too.
And we have two more questions, then we'll wrap up because I know we're a little over time. Once you finish your studies in the US and get a really great opportunity to stay there and work, are you obligated to go back to your country, or can you stay? So on your student visa that you have, the F1 visa that John Carlo was talking a little bit about, you can stay for a year after you finish your studies and actually work on your student visa. So it's called OPT. And you have the option as well to work and do internship experiences while you're studying, but then you have a full year after you graduate to stay and work in the US. Beyond that year, if you find an employer who wants to sponsor a work visa or you're able to acquire a work visa, you can certainly stay in the US. No one's going to force you to go back as long as you have all of the required paperwork. Do you have it? So
see, there's also for STEM related programs, so science, technology, engineering, and math, in the United States, we really like to short things. It will drive you crazy if you ever come over here. But anyway, so the STEM is going to be giving you an extra extension, I believe, for 2 years. So you can work and do the optional practicum training that Emilia was talking about for 3 years. You can also do what is called a CPT, which is Curriculum Practicum Training. That is usually done towards the end of your degree, and it's in combination of schoolwork. So a lot of times there is a professor that is going to review with your employer. Many times is not paid, but sometimes it can be paid as well. And then, like she said, if then you find a company, which for us it's happened historically, it's happened, not saying that, oh, you definitely come to Wright, you're going to get work, but historically we've been very successful of seeing students that going from that OPT and then being hired to the H1, which is the working visa. I wanted to also let you guys know that there is a new movement of programs that are a hybrid between business and engineering. So there is, for example, Wright State, a brand new program is called Masters in Science in Marketing, Analytics, and Insight. So it is a master's program that is in combination of our MBA, Masters in Business Administration, the marketing department, and the big data analytics programs that we have. So it's been mushed together, so it's a Master's of Science. So you're not working with airplanes, you're not doing your normal engineering things, but you definitely get those 3 years of OPT. And it's something that is building very big. I am a marketing major. I personally think that it's super cool. There are some of the professors, we did talk about it again on that Facebook page. If you can't find it, please send me an email. I will send you the video. The professors are really knowledgeable. There's one professor that is very cool. He does a lot with social media, and he's done, one of his research was humor in social media, and he can talk for hours. So I'm a little bit of a geek about that kind of stuff. So
sounds like a cool program.
It is program.
Yeah. If you want to study something related with economics or real estate, which part of the US is a good fit? We kind of say anywhere, like you're going to find that really anywhere.
I would say anywhere, but I honestly do believe that because of the fact that there's so many companies in the Midwest that are Fortune 500, that actually this is a place where you can study a lot more with less pressure. At Wright State, we have an entire school of business. I would recommend to look into it. There is a simulation of what the stock market is. One of the classes that I do know, they provide you virtual money, and you use this software that is very well known, and I never can remember the name. But you can actually essentially spend this money virtually and see how much you're going to bring up your portfolio in stocks. And the same thing is many colleges in this area. Ohio State does something very similar. UD does as well, University of Dayton. I really am passionate about Ohio because I live here, but also I've seen so many different colleges. I've been an admissions officer. I've been in admissions my entire life pretty much. And I can tell you that, adult life at least, and I can tell you that definitely Ohio has a lot of economics, finance, and business in this area. And we had students that are working for Tesla from the master's program. There is from the business program. Speedway is another company, kind of like your gas company. But there's, I think I want to say there was 600 companies that recruit through our MBA. So the opportunities are there, and especially for international students, because they know that they need that as part of their program. Many companies do tend to gravitate towards them.
Part of trying to figure out how you want to focus your search geographically too is just, what kind of setting you feel comfortable in. So if you're looking for more of an urban campus or more of a rural campus or a suburban campus, that's going to be a very different feel. And, to John Carlo's point of, maybe a little bit of you still have the really great opportunity, but in a less pressure situation in the Midwest. That's another thing too, is how competitive are some of these internships or the ability to work with some of these companies going to be oftentimes in more urban cities. Maybe you have more universities, and so there's a little bit more competition. So that's something to think about too. But I would say usually you can find most things anywhere in the US. And then
I wanted to add it to that because you're making a very good point. Like, I came from Italy to the United States because when I was doing my schoolwork in Italy, I was going into classrooms there were movie theaters, and there were like 500 students. When I came to the United States and I went into my college degree, I never had more than 30 people in my classroom. So, and I did that because I went to Ohio. If I would have gone to New York or Ohio State, which are big schools, Ohio State was actually as big as the La Sapienza in Rome. I don't know if you guys know that. So it's like a city. They have a bus in it. So, it definitely was important for me because I wanted to be able to go and ask questions to my professor. And I wanted to know the people that were in my classroom, not just the people that I go with every day on the train back and forth. So it's a lot easier and it's a lot manageable to have a smaller class size than a bigger class size. That's what I'm getting to.
Yeah, so knowing, what kind of classroom environment works best for you and what you thrive in is going to be really important to just spend some time thinking about that.
And most colleges will have that in their paperwork, like class sizes 19:1 is what we have.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth.
Yeah, something really important to look at because that's really going to affect what your day-to-day feels like because you're going to spend most of your time in class. And then Ayush was asking, so John Carlo is the specific person that you want to email about that question about SAT and math scores. And then if he can't help you out, he's going to pass you to someone who will. That being said, I think we're going to wrap up question and answers because we're a bit over, but great questions. Thank you all for participating and for sending your questions. We hope that this was helpful and you got some of your doubts cleared up. John Carlos left his email in the chat box as well as the Facebook page couple Facebook pages that you can check out. Please feel free to reach out to Education USA Spain as well if you had any specific questions. John Carlo, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.